Well, he comes to Jacksonville with a mission to support new music and develop young musicians. Here to tell us about the job and his game plan is newly appointed music director of the Jacksonville Symphony Youth Orchestras, Dr. Nathaniel Efthimiou. Thank you for being here.
It's wonderful to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, you are also recently appointed assistant conductor of the
Yes.
Jacksonville Symphony. But on the youth front, when did you begin playing? Were you ever in a youth orchestra? And for people who can't see, you look extremely young. I don't know how old you are,
Well,
but you
thank you.
you look, probably the age of a youth musician. But did you play with youth orchestras?
Yes, I did. Yeah, youth orchestra was a big part of my life growing up, and actually a big reason why I became a conductor. So I started, playing piano at a pretty early age, 4 or 5. Picked up violin after that, and I joined a youth orchestra, a couple of different youth orchestras. Did some composing along the way, and it was so I grew up in upstate New York, and I played in the Empire State Youth Orchestra. And it was in the Empire State Youth Orchestra that I really fell in love with orchestral music, and in particular, what an orchestra can do for an individual, what it did in my life, but also with a group of musicians, a group of young people.
So, what do youth orchestras bring to the game generally for young musicians? How does it help them? What kind of avenues does it open for them? What are they learning in a youth orchestra?
Yeah, I guess I mean there's obviously the musical aspect, the technical aspect of developing their technique and musicianship on their own instrument. Um, that's sort of baked into the process. For me, what I like to kind of explore is how participation in the orchestra and what it means to play in an orchestra with other people, what that can do for them individually and personally, whether they go into music or not.
And what can it do?
So I think, for me and what I see in others is it can help really develop or help kids discover their own personal voice, whether it's through their instrument or whether it's, socially, outside of music. But, for me, it was a big aha moment when I realized through the help of a conductor in youth orchestra when I was in youth orchestra in realizing that when we're making music we're saying something personally. It's not that and the phrase that they used was we don't play our instruments, we sing through our instruments, it's this idea that we are saying something personally, and then you get into an orchestral situation where you're playing with other people and you have to bring that personal commitment to what we're doing, but ultimately you're giving that to everyone else in the group.
And
And
so, when people reach that stage where they're in a youth orchestra, is that supplanting like private lessons? Do they usually continue to train on their own and with the group?
yeah, yeah, typically they continue private lessons. Many of them are also in their school orchestras. These kids are they're extremely busy, extremely committed, and in love with music. And they have experienced and continue to experience what music can do in their lives. And yeah, it's a great. All of our lives are busy, and it's a great sacrifice. That they are giving in commitment to music and the arts, and they see the value in that, and it's quite
A-
inspiring.
And so, having kids who enjoy playing their musical instruments and are very, very talented is one thing, but the kind of music that they perform, I'm curious if they, must come to a youth orchestra with an appreciation for classical music, for instance, if that's something that they have to learn to love, or if you try to, approach it with more contemporary sounding music, kind of how that all fits together.
Yeah, so many do come to the orchestra because they have a love for what we might call classical music. But I think that it's really important to um, not pigeonhole repertoire. I like my goal in programming is to give them as wide a possible appreciation and exposure to a wide range of musical styles. And so, in every program, I try to choose a piece that's kind of off the beaten path, so to speak, because I think it's important for the future of our art form. That the earliest possible age, that there's the widest breadth of appreciation and exposure to music as possible. So that's a big thing for me. Yeah.
So, I mean, when you're doing programming, then give us an example of the kinds of music that you might include and why.
Yeah, so like we just had our first fall concert this past Sunday, and one of the pieces that the Philharmonic played that I programmed was a piece by Indian American composer Reena Esmail. She's L.A. based, and she self-describes her music as lying in the space between Western classical music and Indian classical
Mm.
music, and so she incorporates a number of ragas in the piece. And it's an interesting
And
exercise.
what is a raga for
So
those?
it's basically like in Indian classical music, it would be kind of equivalent to the scales in Western classical music,
Gotcha.
except there are like hundreds of them, and they're very ornamental. They're often used as the structural base for improvisation in Indian classical music. And so to translate that into Western notation and for an orchestra is a unique challenge in and of itself, which Rena does marvelously. But then to translate then that into a performance and learning the style, and it gets very rhythmically complex. So it's that kind of through the orchestra we can engage with and explore other cultures and ways of making music.
We've got just about a short minute here left, but what are you most looking forward to with this new position? You said you had a concert this last weekend. What's coming up?
Yeah, well, so this weekend on Sunday at 3 p.m. is our Passport Travels Our Family concert, which I'm particularly excited about. And sort of to the point that we were just talking about, it's Passport Travels, it's sort of looking at music as a way of taking us around the world, to different places, to different times, and even exploring the ways that it can take us into our own imagination. So there's music on the program for everyone. I would encourage everyone to go to jacksymphony.org. You can get tickets for that very extremely reasonably priced. This is the time, if you have never been to the symphony, to come check it out.
Excellent. Well, Dr. Nathaniel Efthimiou, thank you so much for being here,
It's my pleasure. Thank
and
you
good
for
luck
having
with
me.
all.
Thank you.